Pop Culture Pastor.
All right, Cody. Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Watch Alongs, the podcast where we risk emotional trauma so you don't have to.
Yeah.
Seriously, HBO, I signed up for zombie fungus and cool guitar covers, not emotional waterboarding. Why do I have to put myself through this every week?
That's a good question. And you only got like a one line of a cover.
Don't get me wrong. It's a very interesting story, and we are drawn to revenge stories, but it feels like such a slog, too, while you're going through it.
That's how video gaming is, Dave.
Video gaming's a slog, and that's why we love it. So grab your rusty pipes, kiss your loved ones goodbye, and let's dive into another feel-good, warm, and fuzzy episode of The Last of Us. Spoilers, it's not warm or fuzzy. Oh, did you get some warm and fuzzies from somewhere this episode? Well, tell me when we get to it.
Okay.
This is Pop Culture Pastor Watch Alongs. My name's Dave. Cody's here.
I am.
And we are here to review Season 2, Episode 4 of The Last of Us. Oh, Episode 5. Episode 5 of The Last of Us.
Don't make us go back one episode.
Torture, man. They're like, we were involved in Joel's death. Make us go back and relive episodes?
Not about that lifestyle.
No. All right, we start off with the wolves and what's clearly an interrogation, although I think in the military world they would call this a debriefing.
Yes. And I was here for this opening scene. It definitely drew me in because you're like, oh, why are we chastising this lady that's smoking? And we're not chastising her for the smoking.
Yeah, it was interesting, right? Because first of all, we get Hanrahan, who is that leader back, the one we saw in the flashback with Isaac's character when he defected.
Yes.
And she's showing up to interview a Sergeant Park, who seems to have randomly left a group of her own men, her own squad, to die.
As one does.
And at first, you're right. You're like immediately like, oh, what's this about? What's going on here? And as we get into it, we find out that it's their deaths weren't so random. While clearing out the basement levels of a hospital, the squad made the horrifying discovery that in the right dark and damp environment, the cordyceps virus is airborne. Cody, it's airborne.
It is. It was tuberculosis all over again.
What does this mean, Cody? What does this mean for the future?
Don't go to that hospital.
The squad is, they breathe them in. It turns them into infected without having been bitten. And that's why Park had to leave her squad sealed inside, including what is the emotional, last straw in this scene, her own son, Leon. Because at first they just say Leon because he's her best.
And Leon was the best.
And Leon said, seal them in. And she did it. And Leon was her son. And all I wrote in my notes here was, dang. But you see what they just did here. In this, we see the opposite choice of Joel. Someone who sacrificed their child for the greater good. And that's clearly, you're meant to see that.
It's what Leon would have wanted.
Well, Leon, yeah. But that's what Ellie wanted too, right? It wasn't like they took Ellie captive. She knew what she was doing.
Or did she?
I mean, it was pretty clear in season 1. She knew she wasn't walking out of that operating room.
I wasn't a fan of it. I'm Team Joel. He can do no wrong.
Well, if you're Team Joel and then by association, you're Team Ellie, your side takes a hit this episode. Because I would say, in a story of vengeance on vengeance, you're just like, who's right, who's wrong? I don't know. It's been pretty neutral.
It is Joel. That's it.
This episode swings to the negative, my man. I don't know. They sure do a good job of making Ellie look like the bad guy here. But we'll get there. We
will.
We get the credits. And then, let's talk about this for a minute. Because for show-only watchers, this is a brand new idea. Through a little bit of studying, I found out, and this is kind of amazing to me. This is a bit of a retcon because in the video game, the initial outbreak is spread through the spores in the video game. Did you know that? You played the game, right?
A little bit.
Whereas in the show, it was spread through our food.
Yeah.
And so the characters in the video game regularly have to wear masks to pass through some of the infected areas.
I do appreciate the change, especially in a post-COVID society, that like, oh, that might be too traumatizing reliving that again. And also, yeah, no one knows what you're saying there, buddy.
Don't you dare take me back to 2020, Cody. I'm going to have flashbacks now. I hear muffled voices and I just get so angry.
So I do think that change definitely serves a purpose, and a practical purpose of you're going to understand the characters without a mask, but also knowing that there is this world pandemic that happened that affected everyone. Maybe we don't hit so close to home. It's like whenever 9/11 happened, movies wouldn't have planes crashing into anything.
Yeah. You stayed away from shots of the New York City skyline.
Yes.
Yeah. So here's my question, Cody. Since this is clearly them reintroducing this kind of bit in here, because I was shocked. I was like, oh, well, this is not good. But is this meant to be, was your understanding that this is a threat to the rest of the world, or just damp, moldy basements? You think this is a contained thing, or is this something that humanity in this reality is going to have to worry about now?
Well, I'm going to say it's a contained thing, just because what we see when we finally get there, like, no one's moving. Yeah. It's just stuck in this basement until the ventilation starts kicking it out.
So there would just be some places in the right environment where if you walked in, you'd be dead. But apparently awful slow death.
Seattle basements.
Yeah. Do not go in the basement. That'd be a problem here in Kansas.
Would be.
You just be like, well, tornadoes coming, because tornadoes don't stop for the zombie apocalypse, Cody.
They might get less frequent or severe.
Oh, is that a climate change thing?
Yes.
You going with climate change?
Mm-hmm.
We don't do that. Then we get the credits, and we're joined. Of course, it says Seattle Day 2.
Been there.
Make sure we know where we're at. Ellie and Dina are still at the theater. Dina is monitoring the radio chatter, which there is a nice discussion on. Yeah, these people just constantly talk because they have no frame of reference that anyone would be monitoring it.
The village people aren't listening.
Yeah, and so it's interesting because that brings up ideas of like, yeah, of course they would. My kids have no idea what a world without smartphones looks like.
Ham radio, baby.
So Dina's monitoring. There's clearly a battle going on between the Scars or the village people, as you call them, and the wolves. Ellie has used a generator to turn the lights on because, yeah, I guess that's what you want to do in your post-apocalyptic hideout when you're trying to be unnoticed.
Well, I can see turning it on to see like if it works, and maybe if there is something that would be beneficial to have electricity for, but
how would she know that it wasn't going to like turn on the marquee outside?
She doesn't know.
That seemed like not a smart choice.
You got to risk it for the biscuit.
I don't think you do, Cody. As it turns out, playing the percentages here, I'm not sure the biscuit is worth the risking.
Well, we'll talk about it soon enough.
Dina is triangulating. She's looking for base locations. Define triangulating in your own words in less than 5 seconds.
That's too difficult.
So we're clearly Ellie's.
So triangulation, it's bouncing off towers to pinpoint in a precise, small, condensed area where you might be.
So she figures out there's this spot that's kind of unpatrolled. by doing this triangulating, whatever that means, whatever that entails. There's this one area where they think they can sneak through because nobody's patrolling the area. But then they both come to the conclusion that nobody's patrolling this area, probably because there's infected. And once again, we're going to see they ridiculously underestimate the situation.
Again, you got to risk it for the biscuit.
There's a lot of risking it for biscuits in this episode. Ellie goes off on her own after Dina says, well, I'm the smart one. Which
she is.
Are we?
Kind of.
Ellie finds the stage, which seems to be in pretty nice working order still, which I was surprised. We got lots of guitars. So we got some microphones up there. And she sits, she starts tuning the guitar. We're like, oh, we're about to be treated to another guitar cover. And she starts singing the first line of a song. If ever I was to lose you. You know what that means, Cody? It's time for Ellie's playlist.
Boom.
Ellie's playlist. That song is a song called Future Days.
It is.
By Pearl Jam.
I knew that song.
From an album called Lightning Bolt. That came out in 2013.
I had that album.
You did? You big fan?
I am a fan of the band formerly known as Mookie Blaylock.
I like when we name our bands after obscure Oklahoma Sooner point guards.
Atlanta Hawk.
Yeah, he played in the pros too. But he played for probably one of the best Oklahoma teams ever in 1988.
Oh, that was tragic for him.
That was tragic. Not for us, though. Look it up. Google it. But yeah, so it's this song that came out in 2013. The pandemic, of course, in this story starts in 2003. But let's talk about the song first. The lyrics of Future Days encapsulate themes of love, loss, the fear of losing someone close to you. That first line, if I ever were to lose you, and then she stops singing because she doesn't say the next line, which is, I would surely lose myself. And in that we get this, that was Joel's internal struggle on why he couldn't go through with letting Ellie sacrifice herself for a possible cure and the lengths he went to. But it also gives us this look at Ellie, who has become the same as Joel. She can't let go of this. She can't let go of the memory of him. And it resides in this need for vengeance. And it just kind of feeds back into this desire for revenge, which is more like a disaster. Because to lose one in self implies that in the revenge setting that two people died that day, not just one. It wasn't just Joel. Ellie died. And as a result, she's endangering also people around her. So how many will go? Maybe she doesn't complete that line because it's too sad. Maybe she doesn't complete that line because she understands the truth of it.
Maybe she doesn't complete that line because the song should never have been written and released.
Clearly in this world, it wasn't. She just happens to know it. For what it's worth, the game creators included it just because they liked the song and they thought it fit the narrative so well.
It did and does, and you can never go wrong with Pearl Jam.
So you're for this. Your thoughts on the showrunner's decision to include a song that within the show's timeline wouldn't have existed yet, you're okay with that?
Oh, yeah. I was like, hey, this is Pearl Jam. Yeah, it is a beloved song and was in the video game Last of Us Part 2.
Yes.
And
Joel sings it to her, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Eddie Vedder performed this at the Video Game Awards back in 2020.
Ah, that's a cool little story.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm good with it. I'm not a stickler for things like that. I'm more of a stickler of the humans making real human decisions, which we'll get to. She stops playing. She puts the guitar back. Dina walks in. Did you figure it out? I think so, yeah. Good. Dina, as we said, has found a gap in the patrol. They both surmise that this is an infected building. They have a discussion on why the WLF talks about everything on the radios, which we talked about Dina compares the scars to the Amish.
I love it.
What were you thinking about that little comparison? I was like, all right, I guess.
I loved how she was like, back in this time period, there was a group of people that lived like they were from the 1800s. And I'm like, sister, they live like they are back in the 1600s.
Yeah, they horse and carriages churning their own butter. Don't remember them disemboweling anybody. But
well, that wasn't mentioned by Weird Al, but it might have happened.
Desperate times. Now we're on the streets and we're having first of all, they say, let's go be reckless.
Yeah.
Which, that's about the most real thing in this episode.
Name it and claim it.
No, they named it and claimed it. Now they're out on the streets and they're having a needlessly loud conversation on what Dina's going to name the baby. And all of this feels super forced.
I loved Hawk Girl's response.
Future Hawk Girl. She hasn't debuted yet.
It's happening in like a month.
They come across more scar bodies.
Well, the baby's names, Ellie and Elijah.
Oh, you wanted to talk about that?
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious. She said that, and then Ellie's like, really? No. In your face, Ellie.
Yeah, that was weird. I just thought that all that banter was strange. But I'll get to why here in a couple minutes. They come across more scar bodies. Dina Ralphs again because she's just vomiting everywhere.
I don't know what she has in her stomach anymore.
Well, I do. It's called a baby. And finally, the whole course of this now, we've been like, why is Ellie not registering this? And finally she does, because she has a moment of clarity while Dina's Ralphing for the 300th time. Oh, I'm putting you at risk, which means I'm putting this baby at risk. And she finally offers to take Dina back. And so she says, I can take you back and then I'll come back on my own. But then Dina has this weird look of realization. And then she's like, just changes the subject, I guess, even though she's not. She's trying to give her some insight. You never asked me about the first person I killed.
I was frustrated with Ellie, especially considering, so we're in day 2 of Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
We have literally gone roughly 870 miles across the United States,
yes,
which is like 30% of the United States in distance, like coast to coast.
Mm-hmm.
And now's the time that we're like, oh, maybe this shouldn't be something I drag others into.
I appreciate you joining me. I kept a spot warm for you over here just for this moment. Yes, of course. Like what? I mean, I know they went across the country or like across 2 states in like the equivalent of 10 minutes of showtime and one evening in a tent. But yeah, bro. But then we get to this weird Dina thing where she tells a story about a child. As a child, she snuck out with a gun because that's something you do in the apocalypse.
I would.
When she returned, a singular raider had accosted her family. She kills him. Then she says if he would have gotten away, he would have chased him forever, comparing it to Ellie's situation.
Yep.
Which, I mean, so she's sort of using empathy, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of, but like she would know how she'd feel.
She also pointed out, like, if she hadn't gone outside to play that day, she would have been dead as well. And so...
But shouldn't she make the connection, Cody, that like, but I was able to catch him while it was in the act of happening and he died. So I got to get through that mission and live my life. Like, shouldn't that have been the connection?
I think there's more to Dina's story that we're not getting.
That could be.
And I do think that she's trying to say, hey, you're a part of my crew, and if someone's wronged you, they've wronged me too.
Yeah. These kind of stories always do this, Cody. The I'll spend my life on vengeance plot. Why do we like this? Why do we like this sort of plot? It's clearly a pop culture trope that almost never works out in reality.
Everyone's been wronged at some point in their lives. Usually justice either doesn't happen or doesn't happen to an extent that we feel justified. So vindication is something that we dream about, and vengeance tends to rule the ethos. And so now in pop culture and society, I feel like whenever we see vengeance being carried out, we correlate it with justice, even though it's not justice. And most people don't really think that far ahead. So, like, after you have avenged your loss, like, you're still heartbroken, empty, and, like, this isn't going to solve anything.
So you would agree that intrinsically most of us know that this is an empty, that this doesn't make you feel better.
I think most of us don't think that far ahead until, like, we're right at it. And then it's like, oh.
That's an interesting point, especially given the 2 songs that are played in this episode. Hold on to that.
I'm holding.
Because the one song we've heard from Pearl Jam so far, or the Pearl Jam song we have heard, is called Future Days. So hold on to that. Dina says, I'll go back if you want, and I'll keep going if you want. There's no right answer. That's like the smartest thing said in this whole episode.
Dina's my favorite.
Yeah.
Not just because she's going to be in Superman.
But then she says something really strange. She says something really smart, and then I'm like, yeah, Dina. And then she says this, if I die, it's on me. It won't be your fault. And I'm like, yeah. But it's still Ellie making the decision here. It kind of is her fault. Well, and it seems like, okay, so this is interesting. She says, what do you want to do? And Ellie takes her eyes off of the eye contact with Dina, looks off to the side and says, I want to keep going. And it looks like that there's a moment there that Dina's kind of struggling with the duality here. Because did she give a disappointing look? It was a very odd look. You're meant to see it.
I do think Dina's comments definitely, A, are trying to make Ellie feel better, but B, also owning up to the fact that she could have said, you're foolish, back in Jackson, you go on your own, but she wanted to make sure that Ellie got there at least safe.
Yeah.
To have a plausible chance of vengeance.
I had some issues with the writing of this episode, but this part I didn't have issue with, because her character in this moment is like, has the duality of understanding the need for revenge and all of a sudden reason for embracing a different future.
Yes.
And that's all playing out on her face there. And so Isabella Merced in this moment is given something great and acts it great. Now let's move on to where she's not given something great. Ellie and Dina are evading patrols. It's nighttime now. Ellie is scouting. Dina surmises that due to location, this building cannot be home to a horde. This building they're about to sneak through. It just has to be a few, something they've handled a lot. But because of the proximity, shooting has to be a last resort. They have this discussion
I agree.
about not shooting. And the Dina and Ellie banter on Ellie's rashness, which seems like an excuse for Dina to say the L word.
I love you?
Yeah, that one. Because I love you. Yeah, she just kind of throws it out there, and Ellie responds exactly with that kind of questioning tone. You love me? It's a small shared moment, but Cody, it feels like this is all a bit rushed in the context of what we've been allowed to see, which my logical mind is saying the showrunners want to make because Ellie's next loss might be more soul crushing. I feel like this is a bad sign for Dina.
Maybe not.
Because I feel like it's super unearned in a lot of ways. We haven't really seen any of the development of this other than one gratuitous scene and a kind of the tent scene, which was at least sweet. But yeah, I don't know. It just feels weird.
And the dance.
Yes, well, she was drunk at the dance.
Allegedly.
But we've come a long way since that dance, and it doesn't seem like we've had a lot of time for a relationship to foster in this way, to use the L word.
Maybe Dina is using the L word, but one of the other L words, because our English language is so limited. Like if we were to use Greek, there's at least 4 different types of love. And yes, she might have affectionate love like between a couple, but she also might have like that close friendship love that definitely has been there since we've been in Jackson.
That was a highly academic, thought out response that I wasn't ready for.
For a video game
I didn't
show.
know we were delving into the ancient Greek on this episode. Or she could have been like, no, I meant to say I love McDonald's chicken McNuggets. That's what I was going to say. Regardless,
Yo quiero Taco Bell.
This may be one of the things where if you're a game player, you have it more fleshed out. It might just be a weirdness in the storytelling. I don't know. To me, it felt kind of shoehorned in, but we proceed. And they proceed.
Yes.
Through the building. Dina doesn't hear anything. This obviously concerns her, as it should. Because
I played enough zombie games.
Apparently, Ellie did not consider the idea that she had recently run into some more evolved infected. They come across ripped apart bodies, and they see one of the smart zombies, a stalker. And as they're talking about how they're going to outflank it, they see another one, and then another, and then another. They are surrounded. This was a truly creepy scene.
And they can make children sounds.
Yeah, that was weird. Yeah, the sounds they make were kind of eerie. But, Cody, this is probably why the building was unpatrolled.
Yeah. You live, you learn.
And for the second time in 2 weeks, we get an impossible situation that they should not be able to get out of. They're about to die. And then holy deus ex machina.
That is a term.
That you're aware of
yes.
what that means? God was Latin for God through machine.
Yep.
But basically, it's a saying that means when you're pulled out of an impossible situation at the last minute that's bordering on the divine.
It was a miracle.
Yeah. At the last minute, they're rescued by Jesse.
So I have known that at least one individual had to make it to Seattle that did not go on the trip.
Yeah, it seemed like some game players knew this as well.
And if that individual didn't make it to Seattle, there was going to be heck to pay.
Yeah, I was blissfully unaware of any of these game happenings. So when I saw Jesse, I'm so excited, Cody, I decide not to think about how big Seattle is and how he just happened to be able to find them no matter how ridiculous that was. At that moment, Seattle was the size of Mayberry in my head, and I was digging it.
He made it to the
theater?
The theater, and they left a map.
But how would he have known they were at the theater? He would have just had to luck his way there. Seattle's huge, Cody.
Maybe he has been scouting them very well from a distance.
There's a lot of maybes here.
Well, that's how we roll.
But we're going to go with it. We're going to go with it. The WLF is shooting at them as they run away because they heard the gunshots, obviously.
He definitely had to see Ellie get bit, though. Like, there was no way around it. Like, zombies all up on her.
Yeah, they don't have time to really flesh any of that out, right?
And at that point, I'm like, why don't you just say you're immune? Just say it.
We're back here again. Just say it. It's funny because the WLF, they outrun the WLF and they try to lose them in a park. They don't go into the park. So immediately I was like, oh, this must be where the scars hang. They hide in this park because it's a huge park because Seattle's a huge city, I've heard. And it's not a kind of place where people would be able to just find you like a needle in a haystack. That just happened. But we're going with it. I'm sorry.
I like to think I can find Frasier.
I'm here again to come in a salmon of scrambled eggs. You know, he's long dead. Long gone. Jesse, they ask him the question that we're all wondering. Jesse, how did you find us?
That's a good question.
The map you left in the theater, of course. How did you find the theater? Jesse shuts it down.
He also reveals that he didn't travel alone.
Yes, he says, I was getting to that. But not before he becomes very belligerent. He's angry.
He should be.
But he does.
Although he doesn't know why he should be.
Maybe, but it's clear he's angry in the way he shuts her down. He's mad that they've even had to do this.
Well, risking his life and that certain other individuals.
He is not happy about the biscuits he's risking for. He's clearly none too pleased that they had to sneak away from Jackson to rescue them. And I say we because he lets on that Tommy is the guy he's come with, and they've done it against Jackson orders. So they had to sneak off. Ellie gets defensive. She gets all macho. And she's like, well, up till you showed up, I was... And he's like, oh, yeah? Up till when? And she's like, yeah, up till you were about to die.
Lose the tune.
Then they hear whistling. Uh-oh.
The village people.
The Scars, they come across them executing a captive wolf. The corrupted soul knows only lies, Cody, says the prophetess. Or they don't call her that. They just call her the prophet. But Dina gets shot with an arrow before they can even take in the witnessing of this scene. And Ellie attempts to lead them away, but they have to split up, basically. While Jesse gets Dina out of there, Ellie attempts to lead them away. It's the same plan that just didn't work in the building.
I love this plan.
Clearly a great plan. She hides in a tree. You'd think the Scars would be a little bit more down with their environment. That somehow, some way she could have hidden in that tree, but they don't. And then as she's making her escape, she sees the hospital, right? She turns back. She thinks, go with this girl that I've pledged my love to and my future fatherhood to. I'm going to be a dad. All that out the window when she sees the hospital and the chance to get a side quest. Because it's not even Abby, but she thinks she might know where Abby is.
I was here for the side quest.
Yes, I think we all are because we're suckers for vengeance. She makes her choice. She heads for the hospital. It's well lit and well protected. They had dogs.
Well, that's nice.
The soldier, the dog starts barking, but the soldier thinks it was a critter. It was just Ellie sneaking through a very small space, which clearly was a way to get into the hospital through the sewers, I'm imagining. She cut to Nora, who was one of the original group with Ellie. She's nursing. She's the bald girl, and she's doing her nurse thing. She's helping the injured there in the hospital. And Ellie finds her, comes up behind her. You remember me? Yeah, you remember me. And Nora kind of distracts her by playing on the volatile emotions a little bit. You know, Ellie's kind of dumb in this situation. She's kind of locked in. So she's able to lure in. As soon as she said, though, the way he screamed, it seems like she's trying to sympathize with her, like about to beg for her life. And she's like, you shouldn't have had to watch that. The way he screamed. You shouldn't have to watch that. But like, if you remember, he didn't scream.
He didn't.
Nope.
She's trying to make her rage quit.
Yeah, she's trying to get at her emotionally, and then she does. She distracts her enough and is able to get away, and she's running, and she's running. Now the wolves are aware of Ellie's presence. They're shooting at her. Nora goes down the wrong way and ends up in a dead end. And she decides that she's going to try and crawl across this elevator shaft. But the elevator falls. And she's in basement 2, which we clearly heard from Leon's mom.
Yep.
That you don't want to go. And they say it over you hear the chatter on the speaker, right? The radio. oh no, it's open. We got to close it up. Blah, blah, blah. They're afraid of the spores getting out. And Ellie shoots at her, but then goes down there. And as she goes down there, we see there's cordyceps floating in the air. That was kind of a cool effect.
I kind of wanted to explore this basement more.
Yeah, it looked really cool. There were cordyceps all over the walls. It reminded me of Aliens when we find like the queen's hive, the lair, except way more colorful, as fungus can tend to be.
Fungi.
Ellie finds a guy I like to think was Leon.
One of them had to be.
And I'm thinking, what a terrible way to die, as he's wrapped up in the cordyceps mold and just wheezing, but clearly alive.
It sounded like he had emphysema or TB.
Yeah. And you can literally see him gasping out the spores.
Powder's just in the air.
She hears Nora coughing. So Nora's already in the thralls of this. She's already done.
Jabroni.
And as Abby is explaining what she's about to do, Nora's like, well, we're both dead. You're an idiot.
Think again.
We're both infected. And Ellie says something to the effect of, are we? And then the realization comes over Nora's face. You're real. You're the immune girl. To which Ellie says, where's Abby? And then she's still not there yet. Nora's, don't you know what he did? And Ellie says, I don't care. Nora says, you don't care? He killed everyone in that hospital, including the only person alive that could have made a cure from you. That
Potentially.
That was Abby's father, and Joel shot him in the head. That's what he did. And then this little nugget. Ellie says, I know.
Ayo.
I had to pause it for a second to collect myself. I knew it. I knew she knew, Cody.
It might partially explain why she went to the garage mahal.
Yes. But that makes sense. And I'm assuming we're going to get answers to this next episode. We move on. Ellie holsters her gun, gets down eye to eye with Nora. Where's Abby? To which Nora says, no. She's not going to tell her. Ellie grabs a rusty pipe.
Yeah.
Where is she? No. Ellie hits her leg. Where is she? No. Hits her again. It's at this point, Ellie screams, where is she? And we go all black. We cut to black. I'm sitting here watching this episode screaming like, Ellie, she's about to die a slow, awful death. Tell her that. Tell her, like, you saw the people in the wall. They're still alive. You know no one's coming down here. I'll tell you what I'll do. I have this gun right here. I'll end it for you right now if you tell me where Abby's at. Why didn't she do that?
Because we're saving ammo. And we know after being around Batman for all these years and his rogues gallery, you can beat it out of people.
Yeah, I don't think she does. I think we're going to see that she just kills her. We don't see it in this episode because after it cuts to black, we get sunlight and Ellie is awoken in what looks like a paradise setting. I don't know. Looks nice. By Joel. It's Joel.
It looked like a slightly younger Joel.
And he says, hey, kiddo, which is exactly how Joel addressed Dina in episode 1, if you remember.
I do.
Ellie says, hi. Cheerily, I might add. Is it a flashback? Is it a dream?
I'm going flashback.
Seems very probable that it's a flashback and that's what the next episode's going to deal with. And we're going to find out exactly how Ellie found out, how it caused this rift, and how all that played out. And I'm assuming we're going to find out what happened to Eugene.
It also probably explains HBO saying, oh, we're going to use or keep Joel around a lot longer than he was in the second video game.
Yeah. And
we're
then
going to use flashback.
Something really interesting happens, Cody. As the credits play, we get another Pearl Jam song.
Edward Vedder's voice again.
Unlike the first song called Future Days that played on a relationship and how you wanted to spend your days with them, this song is called Present Tense.
We do.
And they only play the first couple lines and it ends with this line. Then they cut it off. Are you getting something out of this all-encompassing trip? And that brings us to the Pastor's Corner, Cody. Deeper themes. let's talk about revenge again. Is it worth it? In this episode, we see Ellie spiraling further down this path of vengeance. It's starting to feel less like a mission and much more like the song says, an all-consuming obsession. And that's the thing about revenge. It's never as simple as an eye for an eye. I've referred to it as a spiral staircase that only goes down. Every step feels justified in the moment, in the present, but the further you go, the darker it gets. Ellie's so focused on what was taken from her that she can't see what she's sacrificing to get it back. It's like when you're really thirsty, Cody, and you start downing salt water.
Foolishness.
It only leaves you emptier. And this cycle of violence between the wolves and the Seraphites that we see too, it keeps escalating and each side is convinced they're justified, but every act of revenge just fuels the next act of retaliation. That's where Pearl Jam comes in. Joel sang Future Days to Ellie in the game and in season 1, I believe.
Yes.
She sings the first half of the first line in this, but she can't finish it. That song's a song about holding on to the people you love, about finding hope in a broken world. But in this episode, we hear a different Pearl Jam song at the end here, present tense, and the lyrics hit hard. Are you getting something out of this all-encompassing trip? That's a haunting question in this context, Cody. Is Ellie getting anything out of this? Is vengeance giving her life meaning, or is it just consuming her? Joel's song was about holding on to the future. This song is about being trapped in the present, stuck in a cycle of pain, unable to move forward. That's the deeper theme. Maybe that's the question we're left with. When we're stuck in this loop, are you getting something out of it, or are you just stuck? Because the thing about revenge is it never really gives back what it takes, Cody.
I'm going to drop a knowledge bomb.
Oh, sweet. Drop a knowledge bomb.
Today, Pearl Jam released The Last of Us EP.
As we're recording this today?
Mm-hmm.
What?
But there's one song that was not played.
What song is it?
It is entitled All or None.
Okay. Does that mean we're going to get that at some point? Is that like a hint?
I presume so.
Interesting.
We also get a Future Days live on this album if you're intrigued by that.
That might be worth a Spotify listen. It's time for RIP. It's the Rest in Peace segment. Cody, we're gathered here today to remember Nora, who I assume bought the farm.
Not Nora Jones.
No. The queen of the elevator shaft hide and seek tournament, who thought she could outmaneuver a vengeful teenager in a basement full of spores. Nora, you tried to take a stand, but unfortunately, the only thing you took was a pipe to the kneecap. And while your loyalty to Abby was commendable, your choice of hiding spots, not so much. Rest in peace, Nora. May your spirit float as freely as those spores in the air, and may your memory live on as a cautionary tale about running your mouth to a girl with a rusty pipe and nothing to lose.
Exactly.
I can't help but think a lot of people who were watching this show dug it. They dug it.
It is interesting to see people's breaking points.
Yeah.
Where they decide, I'm going full Rambo here. And we'd like to think that we would do that, but there's a good chunk of us that would just get stuck in like fright instead of fight.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Cody, who's your winner of the episode?
Pearl Jam. You didn't see that coming.
That makes sense to me.
It does.
We talked a lot about Pearl Jam this episode.
I had not talked about Pearl Jam in months. I'm excited. I get to talk about Pearl Jam. And the song lyrics definitely add something to the show, add something to the tone. And I do like how the end credits song happens right after our brief warm and fuzzy moment of Joel and Ellie, which, like, my wife started crying as soon as she saw Joel, and then, like, it was over. Yeah. Boy, Pearl Jam and Eddie Vedder, it's deep music. It is.
It's good for matching up with stories. My winner of the episode is Tommy, That's right. He's not even in this episode, but he's out there somewhere in Seattle playing the unsung hero while everyone else is being reckless and vengeful. While Ellie and Dina are charging ahead without a plan, Jesse's showing up just in the nick of time. I'm saying Tommy's the real MVP, defying Jackson's leadership to protect his family, even when they don't deserve it. He's learned so much since the beginning of the pandemic, Cody.
He has. The
sharpshooter with a heart of gold and the only guy who's actually thinking about what matters most in this situation. He may be off screen, but he's still out there, and he's playing the long game. Here's to the man who's always one step ahead. Cheers to you, Tommy. Stay sharp. Whew, I'm glad he came. I was happy to see Jesse. And what did make me laugh that he was so angry.
He deserved to be.
Because that's going to play into my next pick. Who's your loser of the episode, Cody?
Leon's mom.
Oh my gosh. Leon's mom, who's just smoking a cig and just being totally just like she's done with life.
Yep.
What an awful existence this world is.
Not only did she lose the best man in her troop, she also lost her son.
Yeah, that was quite.
They happened to be the same person, though.
It was quite the 1-2 punch there at the beginning. My loser of the episode is Jesse, because, oh, buddy, you left Jackson to get upgraded from third wheel to unpaid babysitter. Yeah, that's right. Wow. I mean, imagine Cody trekking through zombie-infested Seattle, dodging bullets and arrows, only to show up just in time to see your ex-girlfriend swooning over the girl she left you for.
And also, you don't know the big surprise.
It's just going to get worse. And what's your reward? A thank you? A hug? Nope. You get to haul Dina out of danger again while Ellie rushes off to play vengeance hero. Jesse, you're a good guy. But let's face it. You're in the wrong place, the wrong time with the wrong people. And the look on your face says it all. I didn't sneak out of Jackson for this.
Yep.
Does it look like I want to talk right now? That was great. I loved that line. So hang in there, Jesse. Maybe next time you'll rescue someone who actually wants to be rescued by you, or, maybe just stay home. But something tells me that ain't going to happen, is it? Because my odds on Jesse, leaving Seattle, I'll put it about less than 5%.
So it will be a statistical outlier if he survives.
Yeah. Cody, how many spores out of 10 are you giving this episode?
I'm in the 7.5 to 8 range.
Oh, you like this episode.
I did. Especially our action scenes and the dialogue in certain moments. Dina giving Ellie an out. Jesse being irritated as all get out. I was here for it.
I thought there was still plenty of things in the episode to like. But to me, this episode, more than any of the other episodes this season, I thought suffered from the strain of only having 7 episodes to tell whatever story they're trying to tell. It seems like with each episode we move forward now, something feels shoehorned in, or it just feels like we haven't earned it with the story yet. And I feel like I'm giving the benefit of the doubt because I feel like they're probably just running out of space. And they have to get to this certain point by the season finale in, 2 episodes. So I don't know. It's not that I didn't like it. It's just that I didn't love it. I'm going to give it a 6.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then you sprinkle in some Pearl Jam. I'm here for it.
I did like the Pearl Jam. Not going to lie. All right. What'd you think of the episode? Let us know in the comments below the posts we make on social media for this episode. And of course, as always, subscribe, dig back into our old episodes, find what we've done watch-alongs on before, and do a rewatch, and then re-listen to every episode of the pod that goes along with it. We got a lot out there right now.
Such as Last of Us Season 1.
Yeah, go for it. We'll see you next time.